What parts of Islam do you wish people in America understood better?
The whole Islam. So this is our belief. Islam is not new in America. Islam is not new in America. We find that the founding father, do your homework on that, had a copy of Quran that
Really?
they're reading. That's cool. Where did he get it?
Who'd you say? Who was that?
Who is the founding father in America?
Washington?
He had a copy of Quran with him.
I didn't know that.
Okay. So you can imagine that. And this copy of Quran that he had has been preserved until now. Number two, how old is our country? How old is America?
250,
75 years old.
76 till now.
Do you know that Muslims ruled Spain for over 700 years?
Yes.
Really?
When we talk about Columbus discovering America, do not forget that he came from that side of the world.
Yeah.
Muslims accompanied him when he was traveling this side. Don't forget that. And this is from our history. When did Muslims set their foot in America? Don't forget that, something that all of us here are condemning. You don't want to be enslaved.
Yeah.
You don't want to slave me. I don't want to slave you. So, that was a dark part of our history.
Sure.
But again, most of these people who are brought, for example, from Africa, they were Muslims. And if I say most, let me even go with 35% to 40%. If you look geographically until today, if you look at West African countries in Africa, because we have West, East, Central, and all that, you will find that they were Muslims. So then we are talking about 400 or over 400 years. Muslims also came in this land as what? Of course, we want to say as slaves. Right, as slaves. They were Muslims. Some of them kept their faith. You understand that? Yeah. And then immigrants who migrated to America from different parts of the world, be it Yemen, you understand? Be it India, be it, Muslims who are here. Now, go to late or mid-1950s and then 1960s during, civil rights movement.
Sure.
Muslims are in the map. It's recorded that there were Muslims in this country. And even if we want to go back to, Muhammad Ali and the story of Malcolm X and when was that? So Islam has been in America. Islam has been, Muslims have been traveling all over the world. Religion was not an issue in the country because the country itself had a lot of struggle to unite 50 countries or states to be one. War took place, massacre, there were a lot of issues. So religious was not like in there, but Muslims were around here. Okay. The last part is this. We Muslims claim that since Islam was here, we also made America. If we go back to 200, 300 years, then we say, but what about those who are here, Muslims who are here 400 years ago? Which means during independence, Muslims who are here. That one Muslim was here. Those two Muslims who are here. In hundreds or thousands, they were here. Lastly, immigrants who came to America, I think sometimes we blind our eyes that it's only now because of war and maybe some tough situation. But Muslims have been here. There are American Muslims who inherited Islam from their forefathers. And Muslims have contributed to the development and progress of America in all fields. You don't go to a hospital except that you will find a Muslim. In sports, in education, right?
Yeah.
Technology and science. So which part of Islam, I say, they need to understand our religion. Okay? And our freedom of religion. And also they just need to understand us as people.
Yeah.
So, now, come in. I think it's good to do what you are doing now. Yeah, you come, sit with us. We are human beings. Alaikum assalam. My wife is from Texas. Right. So if my wife is from Texas, she was born here. Her great, her family is from here. I'm asking a question. Which part of her should we, all of us as Americans, understand? She was raised in a Catholic house. Then she became an atheist, a very staunch and stubborn atheist. And then later on, she met Islam and she became a Muslim. Not because of me. I found when she had already been a Muslim for 4 years before we met. God has blessed us with 5 kids. A question: which part of our family, as a Muslim family now, do we want America to understand? Do you understand where I'm? So, the fact that freedom of religion, freedom of speech is established in our Constitution. We just want people to come and talk to us.
Sure. Yeah.
We want people to invite us. We want people to get in and know what they need to know about us. Islam welcomes questions. We will never tell people you don't need to ask this question. Right? Ask questions. Ask about us. Ask about, we ask people to remove doubts and suspicion that they may have by being closer to us.
Yeah.
Because the media has not done a good job.
No.
They are focusing on Afghanistan, and they are focusing on Iraq and on Yemen and on Palestine and Israel, and it's all about these Muslim terrorists and what, we are killing one another inside the country here. Homegrown terrorism. During Obama's time, he said that homegrown terrorism is even more than terrorists or the perceived terrorists outside the country.
Yeah.
You understand that? So a terrorist is a terrorist. And I don't think if an individual Christian kills people, we should say that is Christianity. An individual Muslim, I don't think if we have done good, because what we do is we have adopted selective approach to what is hurting all of us, instead of having holistic approach. And just being fair, man.
Yeah.
And just being fair without mentioning the church and whether he's an individual, he's a criminal. All of us together, whether he's a Muslim or not, we should say no to him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we agree.
Did I answer your question?
Absolutely.
Without dialogue, without coming closer, without talking like this, we will never understand each other.
Well, I just say I visited Turkey before. I've been to Israel, so I've been to the Muslim quarters of Israel.
Right.
And just you having us here and welcoming us in, I really respect it. Just your generosity and your kindness, and the other Muslims I've met, just the willingness, the hospitality, the love. I really respect.
I wish
that.
if I slaughtered a cow for you, man.
Next time.
For a big barbecue.
Next time.
Listen, we are all human beings.
Yeah.
First. I didn't create you, you didn't create me. Especially Christians, Jewish and Muslims. We need to calm down a lot. What is happening in Palestine between Israeli government and Muslims is no good. These people are more closer because we are all claiming Abraham. I do a lot of reading. Jewish have Talmud, their book, right? Christians have the Bible, both Old and New Testament. We're the 66 books of Protestant, we're the 73 books of Catholics. Of course, we have Jehovah's Witness with the New World Translation of the Greek original scripture. Then you have the Book of Mormon, whatever. But we say that, whatever is attributed to God as a Bible, at leadership level, you have to read. I read Bible, man. I read Genesis, Exodus, right? Numbers, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Book of Joshua, First Chronicles, Second, until I'm talking about 39 books of the Old Testament, right? Ending with Malach. And then I read Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts of the Apostles, Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2nd, and until Revelation. Why? If I'm doing that, then a Christian has to read Quran.
Absolutely.
Get to know me.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, thanks for bringing this to us.
I say, get to know me. Get to know these Muslims neighbors. We have a lot of commonalities between us.
Absolutely.
And we have differences. Don't you see that commonalities are going to help us a lot?
Yeah, 100%.
While we are working and debating and having dialogues on the differences, especially Christians and Jewish, we should not fight. And I don't say that we should fight with atheists and what we should not. We need to have dialogues. We need to have discussions. You will be surprised. Sometimes I meet with Christians, leaders. And then, we start talking and then they realize that I have some ideas. I'm not a scholar of the Bible, but just an idea. Then they say, how did you come to know this? I say that is a very good question, but it is a silly question. We need to, America is a very literate country.
Yeah.
Education is promoted, right? Education is the key. If you are not educated, you have like a slim chance, to get a good job.
Yeah.
So we read, we write. And I say, why can't you take my book and read? Maybe there is something beneficial for you. It can help you
Absolutely.
to advance your understanding, even to strengthen bond between you and your neighbor. But if I don't read about you, if I don't know you, if I don't go through the sources, like I'm quoting Bible, don't you see that there will be a lot of misconceptions.
Well, that, and I think
a lot of misunderstandings, right? About your neighbor, a good person. Yeah.
I also don't think you can be like, as a Christian, obviously we think we're seeking and following God, and I know you're doing the same, but I think it's a very good point, because I think if you genuinely are striving to follow God, but you only choose to read the book, say we grew up Christian, if we only choose to read the Bible and we refuse to read anything else, I don't think that's truly seeking God. I think you have to be open to everyone, be friendly to everyone, read, learn, and then go from there. Because I really respect that you do that, and I can't say that I know a lot of Christians who have read the Quran.
And just in brief, so when we talk about, you have already learned pillars of Islam, right? Just food for thought, because this is a big project. When we talk about faith, what was the definition of faith in Islam? It is to believe by the heart, confess by the tongue, and then action. Right. So then I say, but what are the pillars of faith? If you ask me, that is the definition. How can you summarize articles or pillars of faith? I say there are only 6. 1, to believe in one God and only. So then look at where dialogue comes in. And we as Muslims, we are commanded to have a lot of dialogue. And not imposing Islam on others, not forcing people to be Muslims. But have dialogue, explain, convey.
Sure.
So when we say, somebody may ask me, Imam Shafi is my name, what do you mean by God? Don't you say Allah, Allah? And we say God. I say, now that is a key to our discussion. I say, oh, so in America, we call God God. And Jesus was never born in Mississippi. Jesus was never born in Louisiana, somewhere, or Denver. Where was he born? Bethlehem in Palestine there. Jerusalem, around there. Which language did he speak? Aramaic. Which is closer to Arabic. How did he call God? Don't you see, now we are dialoguing.
Yeah.
He never said God, the Almighty. But because this is our language, we say God, the Almighty, right? With capital G. But how did Jesus call God? The remnants.
Father. Abba.
No, but Father is like a title. But what was the name of God? So you do your homework when you go home. Ask, what is the name of God in Aramaic? You ask Google, you will find that. Or Wikipedia.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Beyond Google.
Yeah, I know that big whatever. You understand? You can't imagine. They say Elaha. Elaha, Elaha. We say Allah. Can you imagine? Do you know that we have Arabic Bibles?
I've attended not attended, but I've passed through an Arabic
Yes.
Christian service, and
Yes.
they say Allah.
I'll say thank you.
Yeah.
So don't you see that it's our own ignorance
Mm-hmm.
to argue on why? Because if I go to Africa, in Kenya alone, there are more than 50. Yeah, I'm talking about 50 million, a population of 50 million. And then we have sub-languages, and every clan has a name for God.
Yeah.
So then the idea is, if I say that my 6 pillars of faith is to believe in God, then I say Jewish. How did messengers who came to you taught you, how did they describe God? How did Jesus describe God? Muslims, what are you saying about God? And look at what reading, for example, books of other faith or religion helps. Then I go to the Old Testament. I pick Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. Benefit of dialogue. And I find that it's written, in the beginning, God created heavens and earth. Book of Isaiah, God says that I am God. I'm the God of Israel. I created everything alone. I am the first, I am the last. So I find description of God. I came to the New Testament. For example, book of Matthew chapter 4 verse 10. Satan is tempting Jesus in different ways. And at the end, when he told Jesus, worship me, what did Jesus tell him? Matthew chapter 4 verse 10 records. And Jesus told devil, Satan, away Satan. Because it's written, you shall not, you shall worship me. No, you shall worship him and serve him alone. So Jesus is establishing oneness of God the Almighty. What is the second book of New Testament? I'm just telling you the benefit of reading
Mark, yeah.
and seeking knowledge. It's the book of Mark, chapter 12, verse 27. Jesus is having dialogue with Pharisees and, Jewish and Romans. So, he has a crowd. And they're asking him questions. And he's asking them back, answering them, right? So he is a teacher of the law. He's coming to Jesus, listening to the dialogue and conversation. And then he realized that Jesus has given them the correct answer. Then he is asking Jesus, Master, of all commandments, which one is the most important commandment? And Jesus, as a teacher, Jesus, as a guide, answers. He says, the first commandment is this. Language of Jesus. Shema Israel, Elohim Adonai, Elohim Achad. Hear, O Israel, in our American English, right? With British African accent, okay? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is only one God. And I find the same statement in the third book of, which is Luke, chapter 18, verse 18, when Jesus is called good teacher. I quoted Matthew chapter 4, verse 10, and then Mark chapter 12, verse 27 to 29, and Luke chapter 18, verse 18 of New Testament. And Jesus is told good teacher.
Luke 18, what?
18.
And what was Mark?
Mark is chapter 12, verse 27 to 29. Good teacher, of all commandments, which one is the most important? No. Good teacher, how do I inherit the heaven? Jesus is saying, why calling me good? For none is good except one God. And lastly, I found in the book of John, chapter 17, verse 3. Okay? And also John chapter 20, verse 17 to 20. Jesus is saying in chapter 17, verse 3, that this is the eternal life. 17, verse 3, John. This is the eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ whom you sent.
I have a
You understand that? So when somebody asks me, Muslims, which God do you believe in? I tell them, Prophet Muhammad repeated the same words. God revealed to him the same revelation that he gave to Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Prophet Muhammad, that there is only one God. And this is in Quran chapter 112, verse 1 to 4. Muhammad was asked, you are claiming to have come from God. Can you describe that God? And before he opened his mouth, Angel Gabriel is coming with a command from God, telling Muhammad, say, announce to the world, Hu Allahu Ahad. Who is God? He is Allah. He is God the Almighty, the One. Muhammad never called himself God. We don't worship Muhammad. We don't worship a messenger. We don't worship an angel. The second part is that, who is this God? Allahu Samad in Arabic, English. God is the self-sufficient master. He is the independent. All his creation stands in need of him, and he doesn't need anything from his creation. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He begets not, nor was he begotten God. He's not a human. Walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And also, there is nothing like unto God. I just wanted to give an example of the first article of faith that we believe in one God. Can you imagine if a Jewish is there and we say, I believe in God of Abraham, Moses, and Isaiah, and a Christian is here, and I say, I believe in the same God that Jesus worshipped, that, the same God that said, don't you see that we're going to build more?
Absolutely.
But we don't read about one another, and we don't have comparative discussions, and so it's like, we think they're assumptions. We think they're worshiping devil. You wanted to say something?
Oh, I mean, you just answered one of my questions. So, Claire, you believe that the God of the Bible and the God of the Quran are the same God?
Quran chapter 42 verse 13. God tells us, Quran, and I'm going to give you a copy. Quran chapter 42 verse 13. God tells Prophet Muhammad that the same religion which God has given you, the same way, the same teaching, is the same religion which was given to Abraham, Noah, Moses, and Jesus.
So, yes.
That all of you, from Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, until Prophet Muhammad, all of you be firm in one way, to follow one religion and do not be divided. So this is part of what people didn't understand about Muslims.
Yeah.
That I believe in Jesus. I'm sorry to hurt your feelings today. Okay, you're gonna remember me with this.
Yeah.
I wanna hurt your feelings a little bit. I tell Christians that sometimes I feel, and I believe, not sometimes, that maybe we need to do some racing. We need to race, and I'm gonna beat you because I believe that I follow Jesus practically, and I obey him practically. I say sometimes more than Christians.
I would not disagree with that.
This is just my claim.
Yeah, I agree.
Just my claim.
I would say
I
would say you probably have more respect for Jesus Christ than the majority of Christians that I would know.
And that's what repels a lot of people from Christianity is the hypocrisy that a lot of people see, and they're like, I want no part of that.
Yeah.
But I want to say, like, what do Muslims believe to be true in the Bible? Because I look at the Bible and I say, like, there's a lot of genres in there, and a lot of it, especially the Old Testament, is historical documentation.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you believe is true in the Bible? Like, do you not believe in the New Testament, or is like, I just want to know.
You know, this is a very important question.
Yes.
Especially coming from a Christian.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm gonna do justice to this, but I will try. I will tell you something. Matter of faith is a very important, delicate, and sensitive matter, because it's not just between me and you. Matter of faith is a right. It starts with the right of God upon his creation. Then it comes to the right of the creation upon God. And then number 3, the right of the creation towards one another. When I talk about rights, I talk about that connection between an individual like you and your creator. So we say faith, I believe. It is godly matter. So that is why when we talk about all commandments that came to any, I just quoted Mark chapter 12 verse 27, the first commandment, that you shall have no any other God except me, right? And this is 10 commandments of Moses. It was the same. And can you imagine that is the greatest commandment in Islam? Now, what do we believe to be part of the Bible? That was the question. Sometimes we Muslims, we want to be fair. A lot of arguments, a lot of criticism, a lot of degrading and belittling never helped. We love dialogues, we love debate, friendly debate. You never know, because somebody may say, I met with that young man, I met with that elderly person. We had a dialogue. Our brain is meant to develop, to advance. to discover. We are asking Christians, you as Christians, really, which Bible do you believe that is more authentic than which one? There is a big discussion between Christians on this. Just putting a Muslim aside, Christians themselves, because Catholics believe that 73 books that they have
Yeah.
is the most authentic, and nobody should touch that. And then Protestants protested. That is why they're called Protestants. They believe that some of these books, up to 7 books, were not inspired. So they say that they're apocrypha. Apocrypha in theology, terminology, or understanding means books which were not inspired. Already there's a problem between Catholic and Protestant. That is why they protested and said no. So then we have a book with 73 books, and then you have 66. Coming different versions of the Bible. New International Version, or this and this. King James was there, but then King James had to be revised by Revised Standard Version. We have American, version. We have also an African version, launched by a Reverend, the Right Reverend Desmond Tutu, in South Africa. We also believe that Africans need to have a version. But we say that, okay, 73, in Ethiopia, maybe you write this down for your research. Do you know Ethiopians also have their Bible?
It's older than ours.
Which they believe that it's older than this. You know how many books it has?
I'm not sure.
Almost 89 books.
Really?
Yeah. Or maybe between, over 80. So then we say 80 something, 73, 66.
Yeah.
Don't you think that I, a Muslim, needs to sit and get the answer from Christians? Which one? Okay, I want to close this. Jehovah's Witness came with a translation, and they say that all Bible on earth are not authentic. Their translation is the best. They call it New World. They call it New World Translation. I read it. I had a copy. I love reading. I just love reading. I crazily read, Yeah, I just love reading and say, oh, this is it. Then came Mormons and said all Bibles in the world are fake. What is their claim? Have you engaged them? Mormons.
Yeah.
They say that by the demise of the disciples of Jesus, the original gospel disappeared. That is. So then they say in 1805 in America here, they have their prophet called Joseph Smith.
Yeah.
Smith shops, Smith. So they say that Joseph Smith was walking. It was between sunrise and midday.
You found the plates.
Not only that, God and Jesus appeared to him. They even draw God and Jesus.
Yeah.
And God and Jesus, a human being but full of light,
Yeah.
he knelt down. And so God told him that, Mr. Joseph, they touched his head and told him, Mr. Joseph, you are my prophet.
Yeah, with his 25 wives.
You understand that? You are my
Yeah.
prophet. And then what is unique with their claim, not really unique that it's right. They said, then God told them that, do you know that the original gospel was lost? It disappeared. But if you go to such and such what? Such and such place, you're going to find it there. So he went being inspired and led by God, and he got the original, and he memorized, and he translated it, and as soon as he understood it, it disappeared again. So they say this is what they have today as they. So I want to tell you what we say. If Jesus was alive with us today, I don't think if he would have agreed with all this.
Yeah.
Whenever a prophet or a messenger came, he preached. And like Jesus says in the book of John chapter 5, verse 30, and also that is confirmed in Quran chapter 53, verse 3. Jesus said that I can do nothing on my own. As I hear, I judge. And you see many times he's saying, Father, my God, he's asking God for guidance. All messengers did that. Prophet Muhammad, God is defending him that وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. He wasn't speaking out of his own desire. All that he communicated, like any other prophet, was a revelation from God. Whenever a prophet came to people, many people rejected him. Few believed in him, like it happened to Jesus and other prophets. And then when they left, came some people who really tried to corrupt they inserted and they mixed the original teachings with some history. They mixed it with a bit of falsehood and this and this. I think this is what has really disturbed the Christian world when it comes to Bible. Until today, they cannot. Every church, every belief system believe in what they believe in. But then another church is opposing that what they have.
Yeah.
So I think this was just because God is the all truth, and we believe that all messengers from Adam, Noah, Abraham were truthful, and the revelation that they received from God was. But the area of differences is what human being added or whatever they took out to suit their desires. This is Brother Kamal. So So we believe, I think you want us to know from our belief that we have Quran. We believe that Quran, according to Islam, since Prophet Muhammad was the last messenger, and by saying last, it means that we 100% believe that Jesus was sent by God as Muslims. Moses was sent by God, and many other prophets were sent by God from time of Adam. We believe in that. And believing that Prophet Muhammad was the last, we also believe that he brought the final revelation. And this is the Quran that is in front of you. So this is our belief. So then Quran is confirming, for example, if you tell me about Jesus, I'm going to give you a homework. Would you imagine that there is a chapter in Quran, this Quran, that is named after Mary?
Yes.
Yeah.
Chapter of Mary, chapter 19 of Quran.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that there's a chapter named after Joseph, chapter 12? It details the story of Joseph and his brothers and his father Jacob. Can you imagine that in Quran there is a chapter dedicated for Abraham, chapter 14 of Quran?
Yeah.
Do you understand this? So we Muslims believe that Quran is the criteria. It came to help us to know what was right from what was wrong. So we believe that in the Bible, there are words of God in the Bible. There are teachings of messengers, but we also believe that due to these differences, it is impossible that there were no additional teachings of men that have divided the churches and Christians. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
So do you believe that the Quran is incorruptible? That the Quran there's no way for people who have added anything or to change
You know,
it?
with Quran, we have two things. One, Quran has 114 chapters. 114 chapters. And then Quran has more than 6,000 verses. How do you know that Quran is incorruptible? So this is how Quran, there are two ways of knowing this. One, we have the original. We have the original. And I don't want to do comparison. You came to search about Islam. Okay? I didn't want to go too deep into, yeah.
How'd you get the original? Like, what's the history in that?
So Prophet Muhammad is born in Mecca, known as Mecca, in the year 570. 40 years later, God sent angel Gabriel, we call him Jibril, to reveal the first portion of the Quran, which marks chapter 96, verse 1 to 5. The revelation continued for a period of 23 years, 13 in Mecca, and then his people fought him, persecuted him with his followers like they did to every prophet. So Prophet Muhammad was then commanded by Allah, God the Almighty, to migrate from Mecca to a city called Medina, where he established Islam for 10 years. So we are talking of 13. And now Quran is being revealed, and of course when God is revealing his words to a prophet, he will make him memorize, understand it. So then Prophet Muhammad is reciting this Quran to Muslims of that time and non-Muslims. And Quran was then preserved in these two ways, through memory, memorization, and also in writing. Prophet Muhammad is alive. You can see with prayers. We are praying, we were not singing. When we say Allahu Akbar, we are praising God. Everything we say in between there are verses of Quran, especially the long recitation. So from that time, you find that companions of the Prophet memorized the original verses of the Quran, and also it was written down. Prophet Muhammad passed on. Quran was left. It was transmitted and transferred through what? Through memory and also in writing. If I go to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, I can try something for you now. I can try something for you. The fact that we have original, I cannot change it. I can try it for you now. Brothers walked in, they didn't know that you are coming. Brother is called Ahmed, and brother is called Kamal. I want to read something. Kamal, come closer. I want to tell you something.
Yeah.
It's not planned, right? Just in 1 minute. Come here. Randomly, right? I want to tell you how Quran has not been corrupted. The fact that we're having original. Remember, Arabic is my 4th language. And Arabic is maybe his 4th or 5th language.
Impressive.
That's very
That's
impressive.
cool.
You understand? 4th or 5th, we are learning it. But I have my mother tongue called Luo, the Luo. I'm called in Kenya, I'm called Wood Luo. Hey. Okay? And then I studied English. British, British colonizers, so they left her with Queen English, yeah. But then they left me with water, I say water.
Oh yeah, there you
So
go.
my daughters here are correcting me. No, don't say water. Water. So we are struggling every day. I have to fix the water
Yeah.
thing from water, Queens, bit of African. Yeah. If I'm leading prayers, I want to read any verse of Quran. Okay? This is not planned. So to answer your question, may Allah forgive me. An example. A'udhu billahi ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I want to read the first chapter of randomly. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. In the name of God, the Almighty, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I want to read it in order. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir
Rahim. Rahman.
Before I finish, somebody's going to correct you. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Am I right?
Yeah.
So can you imagine that we know what is the end? Everybody in congregation. We know which verse comes after which verse. You cannot even, this is how Quran has been preserved.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Now,
That's cool.
the issue I think in Christianity, if I were to talk, to my neighbors and
sure.
with a very, very clean heart, is that the fact that there is no original, and New Testament was written some many years after the ascension of Jesus. This also caused a little bit, because every church then went with what leaders and learned people in the church felt them, and then other churches came in and opposed them and all that. But if you read Quran chapter 2 verse 2, it explains itself. God says, Alif Lam Mim, there are abbreviated letters which starts there. Then Allah, God the Almighty, says that this is a book in which there is no doubt. It is a guidance for the pious. Quran is explaining itself that there is no, and then Quran is inviting the whole world, over 1,400 years ago, that if you are in doubt of this Quran, then bring a Quran like it. Bring a copy like it. That has never happened. Quran is challenging that if you have in doubt of what God has revealed to Prophet Muhammad, if you doubt, bring a chapter like it. I'm talking about 114 chapters. Even critics of Islam could not produce one. God is challenging them that if you are in doubt of what God sent down to Prophet Muhammad, that is how it is, then at least produce one verse like it. Also, this has not been. So the fact that you cannot change it, you know, Quran is memorized by non-Arabs in number more than Arabs. Pakistan are non-Arabs, Bangladesh non-Arab, Somali non-Arab, non-Arabs who cannot even speak Arabic have memorized Quran from page to page. I randomly ask Christians, tell me what Matthew chapter 1 verse 1 says. Can I tell you the preservation of Quran? Can you read what the first chapter of Quran?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم
So this is strange, right? I want you to take Quran. I'm going to translate to you chapter 1 verse 1. Yeah, easy. Chapter 1 verse 1. Just to let you know the preservation of Quran. Yeah. Chapter 1 verse 1. It is called the opening chapter. Translation may differ. Yeah.
It starts from the right, yeah? From the other end.
No, it's from me. From that side, yeah.
Okay.
Did you find 1:1?
Yeah.
Look at what I'm going to read. In the name of Allah, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, or the beneficent, the most merciful. And then I say, all praise are due to Allah, or be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Right? The most gracious, the most merciful, or the beneficent, the most merciful. The king or the master of the day of judgment. Verse number 4. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Guide us to a straight path. Is it like that?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
My English may vary, but this is how Muslims have memorized Quran from the time it was revealed until now. Now, if I read Quran on the phone to a Pakistani and I miss one word, he's going to tell me that it's not like that. The entire book. So the fact that this is a translation, but we have original, and we are teaching our children original, that has played a big role on the preservation of Quran, and it has been very, very difficult to be corrupted.
Yeah, that's good.
Makes sense.
That's a good answer. I had a question following that. So,
Please, yeah.
with the translations and stuff, we've heard that like you can only know Allah through Arabic. Can you just speak on that a little bit? with the translation?
Don't we speak in English?
Yeah.
I teach in English. What they mean is that Allah revealed the Quran in Arabic. And the importance of that is that for the preservation and for the deeper understanding of the word of Allah, to understand the objective of the verse, the objective of the command, don't you see that it's highly recommended that you know it, you understand it from the source and from the original language. When original is lost, when word is translated from a translation to a translation, what does it lose?
Slowly starts to change.
So then there is emphasis to Muslims. I am not an Arab. And you don't need to be an Arab to be a Muslim. No. In fact, we have Arab Christians in Egypt, you know that.
Yeah.
And we have Arab Christians in Syria, part of Iraq, and even part of Yemen. We have Jewish Arabs who even lived in Medina in the time of Prophet Muhammad. They were known as clan of Qurayda, Qaynuqa, and Nadir. They were speaking Arabic until today, right? So you don't need to be an Arab. But it is our pride that we are having the original and we are learning from the original. And this has helped Islam, and it has led Muslims to be together, and it has unified us from all over the world. So nobody can come and try to create something simply because he says I don't have the original, and I'm not going to learn from the original. You can imagine that. So whenever somebody tried anything like to take something out, a young boy, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old or 10 is going to tell him, no, but that verse is not like that. Assalamu alaikum. So did you understand this? So yes, I'm teaching, and even if you go to any mosque on Friday in America, you will find that we are preaching in both Arabic and and English. And the explanation, more explanation is in English. Allah, God the Almighty, says that He never sent a messenger to except that he communicates to his people in their native language. The prayer that we are praying, I think this is going to help us more. You see the prayer? It took up to 7 minutes to 10. In fact, he prolonged it. It is called Maghrib prayer, after sunset prayer. But do you know that we pray when we enter the house and when we leave? We have, I call it 23 hours prayer that you can offer in any language.
Yeah, that's cool.
So you don't even need to pray in Arabic. But we say that God has chosen the revelation through this language. Isn't it better for me to learn the words of God as they are?
Makes
Ah,
sense.
yeah. So we are explaining in English. We have translations. We have all translations. You know, and this helps us to know God. But it brings us back to the original revelation.
That's really good. Let's see.
So articles of faith was to believe in one God. That brings us closer to Christians and Jewish. We believe that God created angels. What is the concept of angels to you, for example, as Christians? What is the description of an angel?
I think there's spiritual beings, and angel is just a title for a messenger. And there's other titles like a cherub is a different type of spiritual being. And often in the Bible, there's like on the distinction that one of the biggest distinctions between Islam and Christianity is Jesus God. And there's many times where the Bible points to it says like not an angel of God, like the angel of God.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't say correlate. That doesn't mean it's Jesus, but like there's kind of weird things going on there.
Yeah. So an angel to us, we believe that there is God, and you spoke about distinction. This is very good. A distinction. The first distinction is in Islam is that there is God the Almighty as the creator and originator who brought everything into existence, and then the rest are created or creation. The creator and the rest are created. And part of the creation is the heavens and earth and many other planets. The part of the creation is our belief that God created creation called angels. They are beings of light. They were created from light. They are neither male nor female. They are more powerful and huger than us. Angels are created by God to believe in Him, worship Him, and execute His commandments. And we in Islam believe that angels don't disobey God. But we, demons and others, are disobeying God. We can choose between obedience or disobedience. So believing in angels that they were created by God disqualify them from being gods. We also believe that is second pillar of faith, believing in angels. We believe that God sent revelations to all messengers from Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and we believe that Quran is the final, as we explained. But the major books, every messenger received a revelation and conveyed, right? But the major books are Torah, which was given to Moses, and then Zabur, which was given to David, Injil, good news, a book of guidance that God revealed to Jesus. We Muslims believe. The issue that we have a little bit is which one, okay, from what every Christian has in their hand today.
Yeah.
Which one has 100% of what Jesus was given and left? Because they themselves differ on which one. And then we also believe that
British.
okay, yeah, that Ahmed, you can bring it this one. We also believe, I know I will let you go in a few minutes. We also believe that God appointed messengers. So believe in one God, His angels, revelations, books, okay? And then we believe that there were messengers, okay? Messengers, and that is, we mentioned Adam, Abraham, until Jesus down here, until Prophet Muhammad, we believe that is the last and final. And then we believe that there is day of judgment. We believe that in this world, we are guests and visitors. God created us for a purpose. He created us to serve Him and worship Him. Everything we do should be qualified as an act of worship. Good should be done, and bad should be avoided. And there is only one straight way to God. And that is why He sent all those messages. In fact, the word religion to us means a way of life. A way that God has legislated to be followed. So that way, every prophet came, served and left, served and left, served and left, served and left. And at the end, when Prophet Muhammad came, we believe that he came to seal and close that. So day of judgment means you will stand in front of God and you will be asked questions. How did you live your life, good and bad? And we still believe in the concept of hellfire and paradise.
Yeah.
Okay. And then lastly, we believe in what is called divine preordainment, predestination, the will of God. That is a very, very, very important belief in our lives, and it guides you. When you are having good, you believe that God decreed this. When you are going through bad, you start asking yourself, you say, okay, God knows, but I think this is a self-afflicted one, because God told me not to do this. But if it happens like a natural disaster, whatever we call natural disaster, we say, God decreed this, God knows about it. And we as slaves and servants of God, we pray that God replace it with a better situation. So our life is under the decree and divine preordainment of God. We believe if you lose your dad, who wanna lose his dad? You lose your brother, he dies. Your friend, you cannot help it, right? We say, God knows. We submit to God when we see, Yes. So these are 6 pillars of. I just wanted to add on you.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much for clarifying that.
Any question that I can answer quickly now, if you have more.
I would just like to say, can we just have a second to share very
Yes,
quickly what we
yes,
believe?
please. Yes.
I would say for me personally, and I owe it to you to read this. I'm incredibly grateful that you gave this to me, and I will honor that by reading that. And I am humble enough to admit I could be wrong with what I believe.
Please present your belief. That is why we talk.
Yeah.
Man,
But
feel free.
In
Don't apologize about
in
it.
reading the Bible, I'm blown away by the character of Christ, the love He has for others, the humility He has for others. Even we believe when He's being crucified, the humility to say, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they've done." To me, I believe Jesus did claim to be God, and that is in the end why He was crucified, is because the religious leaders were saying, here's this man who's claiming to be God, and they did not like that because it was taking away from their own authority. What's so compelling to me about that, I know you don't personally believe Jesus is God, was that the people who lived with Him, the people that broke bread with Him, the people that were with Him every single day, when He was crucified, when He was sentenced to death, they all ran. They were scared because the Roman Empire was incredibly dangerous, and they were fearful for their lives. But for them to come back after claiming with everything that they have that He was resurrected from the dead, and then being willing to die the most brutal, awful deaths you could possibly have, to me that's incredibly compelling, because I don't know many people who'd be willing to die for a lie. These people who at first, yes, they ran in fear. They said, look, this man's being crucified, we don't want the same thing to happen to us. But then for them to come back with that bravery and boldness of spirit to preach the gospel to all ends without any regards for their life and for such love and fever for others, that is to me what makes Jesus God, is the just bravery of the people who lived and who broke bread with him. And I'm just curious, have you ever considered, or are you open to the possibility that you could be wrong? I am open to the possibility that I could be wrong, and I'm not judging you one way or another.
Present your case.
But I just believe that at the end of the day, we are all sinful, and we are all in need of a Savior. And I do agree with you. I believe that we are saved through faith in Jesus Christ, but I personally believe that faith is not just what you say. Faith is in action. Faith is what you do. It's in your heart, what you say, but also how you act. So that's what I personally believe, and I'd just be curious
Okay,
if you're open.
Yeah. So we will discuss this. I will discuss it from a Quranic perspective quickly, just like you presented your case. And this, I think, will help you to know our belief in Jesus. Number one, in Quran, God the Almighty says that God does not, or God were not to send a messenger. He were not to appoint a messenger. And then that messenger claims to be God himself. This is Quranic. Number two, if there is faith on earth, any faith that you think of, anything you call faith, that makes believing in Jesus an article of faith,